I love the personality of Peter in the Gospels. He's always wanting to be wherever Jesus is. And sometimes he rushes ahead thinking he knows where Jesus is going and then finds he's made a big mistake. But he makes these mistakes because he keeps putting himself out there. Before Jesus died, Peter made probably his biggest mistake. He denied Jesus. He pretended he didn't even know him, that he was nothing to do with him. At a time when Jesus was being rejected and abandoned by everyone, Peter claimed he never met him. Fast forward a couple of weeks, Jesus has died, been raised from the dead, and he's appeared twice to his disciples, but he hasn't had a conversation with Peter about that night. In John chapter 21, the last chapter of John, we read that the disciples went fishing. They fished all night long, and they didn't catch anything all night. In the morning, the sun came up. It says Jesus was standing on the beach, but they didn't recognize him. So Jesus tells them, throw the net over the right side of the boat, see what happens. And they do that, and Jesus gives them this miraculous catch of fish. And then they realise it's Jesus. And it says, when Simon Peter realised that it was the master, he threw on some clothes, for he was stripped for work, and dove into the sea. The other disciples came in by boat, for they weren't far from land, 100 yards or so, pulling along the net full of fish. I wonder how Peter was feeling this night. Guilty, ashamed, full of sorrow for his weakness, for how he'd betrayed his friend and his master. He's seen Jesus a couple of times, and so he's probably thinking, well, Jesus hasn't kicked me out of the group, but our friendship's never going to be the same again. He's not going to trust me again, not after this. That job that he wanted me to do, leading the other disciples, he's not going to want me to do that now, not after what I've done. I've blown it. I've ruined everything. If it was me, I'd be hanging back, hiding probably behind the other disciples. But Peter, whatever he might be feeling in that moment, he dives into the water. He can't wait for the boat to get to land. He has to get there. He has to get to Jesus as quickly as he can. And later in that passage, there's a famous conversation, finally, between Peter and Jesus, where Jesus asks him 3 times, do you love me, Peter? And Peter says, yes. And Jesus says, feed my sheep, shepherd my sheep. He's saying, yes, our friendship is still intact. I still trust you. I still have faith in you. I still want you to do that job that I called you to lead these other people. He's saying, it's all okay. It's okay, we're good. And so I think that's an example for us. You know, if you're feeling like that today, if you're feeling like you've let God down, or you're feeling guilty or ashamed for something that you feel has put a barrier between you, just get to Jesus as quickly as you can. Like Peter, dive in, just get back to him because he's waiting. And there is no barrier between you. Your friendship is intact. You just have to get to him. I'm Jo from Valley of Springs, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Follow us on Facebook and Instagram and at valleyofsprings.com for more reflections on life and faith.